Tom, it's good to be working with you. It's great to be in the presence of an attorney and to know what legal ramifications there are with regard to attorneys in their application to help veterans. What can you say?
Well, first of all, I can say thanks for the acknowledgement, Dave. It wasn't that long ago that attorneys couldn't be involved with veterans at an early stage in the litigation. It used to be that an attorney could be involved only after a case was appealed from the Board of Veterans' Appeals. Now, as of June 20th, the year 2007, an attorney can be involved when there's been a notice of disagreement with a regional office decision.
Oh, that's the early stages of an appeal to the Board of Veterans' Appeals, probably.
Exactly.
Okay. And I remember in the old days, veterans couldn't use lawyers because it was a $10 or $15 fee that the lawyer could not charge beyond. So what is happening now is that your full utilization and legal skills are going to be applied because your services now are a lot greater toward the veteran.
Exactly, and at an earlier stage where we can make a difference.
Right, right. Well, how are you paid?
Well, we're paid generally by a contingency, so that if the veteran wins, we win, and that amounts to 20% of the retroactive amount that the veteran recovers.
Oh, okay. So if the VA pays this guy, and the case has been running for 15 months, and he receives retroactive pay, you would get approximately 20% of that amount.
Exactly.
I see. In a one-shot deal, you wouldn't get money every month, right?
No.
Okay.
Just on a one-time shot.
Great.
Yeah.
Tom, that's good stuff. A lot of guys, I'm sure, can use that information. And while we're at it, I want to mention a new point of law with regard to deductions of severance pay when a veteran applies in the service and comes to the VA for compensation. And I'll read the law. Now, no deduction will be made in the case of disability severance pay received by a member for a disability incurred in the line of duty in a combat zone or incurred during performance of duty in a combat-related operation. And what that means is that the Veterans Administration will no longer deduct essentially the amount of severance pay a service member received at discharge in order to repay that amount prior to receiving compensation from the VA, which is a good thing.
I will agree, it certainly is.
Yeah.
And they certainly deserve it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I understand too that there's never been a deduction on the pension side. It all has to do with compensation.
That is correct, because they're totally different programs, and pension pays relatively little, so there isn't any deduction for pension in a case like that.
Right. I understand too that the amount that's deducted only applies to the disability that they were discharged for.
That is correct. If a veteran has a disability for a left shoulder and receives severance pay for a right knee, then that wouldn't apply to the compensation he was previously receiving for a different disability.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's not an overall blanket recoupment. It has to be for the specific disability for which severance pay was paid during the military service or at separation. I get an email here from a recently discharged veteran, and he said at his TAPS class, which is the information they get just prior to being separated from active duty, he said they told him he had 5 years of unlimited medical treatment upon being discharged from the military. And he said his buddy who got discharged around the same time said he only had 2 years of medical treatment from the VA medical center and or medical facility. And the issue is, the truth is, a veteran upon discharge has 5 years of unlimited medical care and treatment at any VA medical facility.
Right.
It's 5 years. So the 2 years, there's an error there, it's 5 years. And of course, you have 90 days for any dental treatment that you're in need from the service. And the 90 days will expire if you're in treatment for dental, and the 90 days expires, the VA will continue the treatment. But for medical care and treatment at the VA medical facility, it's 5 years.
Very interesting, Dave.
Yeah.
I understand, though, that there's a different rule once you become service-connected for a condition.
Good point, Tom. Absolutely good point. Once you have a service-connected disability, that 5-year calendar is off the table. That no longer exists. We're into a different ball game now. You're absolutely correct. It's a great point.
Oh, thanks.
So, yeah, if veterans have a service-connected disability for any condition, that 5 years is off of the table.
So, Dave, Tom, what you're saying then is, as long as a veteran has a disability rating of from 0 up to 100%, he's therefore eligible for VA health care at a VA facility pretty much for the rest of his life, or as long as he retains that disability rating.
Absolutely, absolutely, especially for the disability. And I think Tom and I were talking during the break about the different increments and levels of compensation. And there's a 0%, and there's 10, and there's 30, and there's 50%. And then, of course, the 100%, you get carte blanche. But each of those levels provides a little more care and treatment from the Department of Veterans Affairs medical system.
Right. So, Dave, that means it's just so much better to be service-connected if you can possibly justify a case.
That is
service
correct.
connection.
That's correct.
So, guys, what that sounds like is having a service-connected disability, which puts you in the VA system, to the VA, that's like the holy grail.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. Yeah, so the 5 years only applies if a veteran has not received compensation benefits for a service-connected disability from the VA. That's when the 5 years applies.
Exactly.
You guys got something over there, right?
Hey, I got an email here. It's pretty interesting, pretty basic. I was discharged in 1991. The Veterans Administration awarded me a 40% service-connected disability in 1992. I got married in 2004, and I looked on the computer, and my compensation is the same, and it does not include my wife and 2 children as dependents. Why? Good question.
It sure is.
And basically, the Veterans Administration needs to know that he has a wife and 2 children, because he wasn't married when the award was made based on his email. So he simply needs to let the Veterans Administration know he has a wife and 2 dependent children, and they will increase his compensation for those 3 dependents.
And that's because I believe, Dave, that he's at the 30% level or above.
That is correct. Good point, Tom. You don't get compensation for your dependents if you are below 30%. 10 or 20, it doesn't happen. 30% and above is when compensation is payable for dependents.
Right.
Right.
And I think something else that's often overlooked by veterans, and maybe the VA at times, is that veterans' parents can be considered dependents. And a veteran can receive an additional amount for his dependent parents.
That's a great point, Tom. You're absolutely correct. And in today's economy, that's happening more and more. Because if you remember on the application, it asks if your parents are dependent on you for support. Okay, so if they are, and the Veterans Administration is made aware of that, the veteran can receive an additional amount for 1 or 2 parents who are depending on him for support. Great point, Tom.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, as far as a veteran's spouse and children, there's no need to show any financial dependence. It's just by relationship, right?
That's correct. Good point. You're a lawyer. Boy, I can tell. Yes, sir. Great point, Tom. Absolutely correct. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.